Welcome to another episode of the STR Sisterhood. I'm your host, Stacey St. John, and as always, I want you to know that I'm so glad to be spending a few minutes with you today. Now, before we jump into this episode, you know it, girl, I want to share a quote that I recently read that resonated with me, and it says, "What you do every day matters more than what you do once in a while." And that comes to us from 5-time best-selling author Gretchen Rubin. Now, in this episode, we are talking with Kit Leot. And Kit started her short-term rental business really just a few short years ago. And now she manages more than 35 properties, runs a thriving co-hosting operation, and has even stepped into glamping and development projects. I know you are absolutely going to love her. So without further ado, let's jump into my conversation with Kit. So today we are here with Kit Leot, and we are going to be talking all about her journey in short-term rentals. Kit, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to talk with you. And what I would love for you to do is just start out and share with us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, well, my name is Kit, and I started my own short-term rental business about 3 years ago. And I manage my own and other people's short-term rentals, which is a bit of a different scenario. And I think I'm up to about 35 properties. And then me and my partner also did a development agreement and own a glamping. I don't know what the word would be. It's so new. It's like a glamping campground, but it's not camping. So we have 10 glamping units that we run and operate.
So fun. I'm just taking note because I want to ask you about that. So talk to us about, your early part of your journey. What even made you decide to get into short-term rentals?
I think short-term rentals actually found me instead of me finding them because it was COVID. I lost my job. I was doing dispatch in another province in Canada. I live in Canada, by the way. And so I lost my job and Googled where is the cheapest place to live in Canada. Nova Scotia came up. And so I said to my son, "You want to go check it out and see if we like it?" And he said, sure. He was doing online school. So we loaded up the truck and came out here and ended up buying a house conditional on sale of ours back in Ontario. So then we raced back to Ontario, a 16-hour drive back, packed up all our stuff, and then drove the 16 hours back. And here we are. So a property became another property was for sale, and I bought a cottage and then decided to rent out my personal home when I wasn't there, when I was at the cottage. Wow. So that's how it all started. And then I met my partner, and together we bought 2 more properties, and we put those on the market for short-term rentals as well as his home. Mm-hmm. So then we were up to 4, and I was doing everything: the messaging, the cleaning, the photographs, the everything. And it became a little bit overwhelming. And so then I hired someone to help with the cleaning. And then that was a whole year. Then I quickly saw that someone else looked like they were really busy getting into motels and hotels and things. And so I sent her a message and said, "It looks like you're really busy. Do you want me to buy your contracts off you?" She said, "Oh my goodness, would you?" I said, "Yeah, I would." So I bought 13 contracts of other people's short-term rentals that were already currently running and operating. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to need some staff.
I have so many questions for you. So many questions. So you've just given us the high-level overview of the exact conversation we're going to have today. So I want to go back to the early days where, okay, you bought a property to live in, and you bought a cottage, a place for you to vacation, which I love in Canada. They're called cottages. Like, that's
what do you call them in the US?
Just houses. I bought another house.
Oh,
Like,
no,
I'm envisioning, do all the cottages look like cottages?
they do. Oh, do they ever?
Okay. Okay. So that's maybe if I saw it, I might say, oh, that's a cottage. Who knows? I digress, Kit. I'm totally going squirrel here. All right, let me get back to my question. So you bought a cottage free to vacation in. What gave you the idea, oh, I should just put my house up for rent for a short-term rental while I go on vacation? Like, did you hear it somewhere? Did you know of other people doing this?
Well, I've stayed in a lot of short-term rentals myself, and like back to the days of like Airbnb, that was like a room in someone's house. It has evolved significantly from those days. But I remember going to Long Beach, California, and staying at this woman's house, and she made me a green drink every day, and it was really cool. So it's always been on my radar because it's always been my go-to. I always prefer to rent a house as opposed to a hotel. There's more amenities. It's just nicer. You have your privacy. So I don't know really where the idea came from. It just seemed like an obvious, if I'm not going to be here, I should be making money because I had to create a job out here. There's, it was COVID and I was jobless. So I thought, okay, that would at least create a little bit of income for me. So I did a few things. I went and bought a barn door at Costco and installed that into the house to try to zhuzh it up a bit. And I put it available before it was even ready. And then an hour later, I got a booking and I was like, okay, it's got to be done before the guests arrive. So it really lit the fire under me and I got it done before the first guest could arrive. But the COVID was the absolute prime for short-term rentals. So I was spoiled in the fact that I jumped into a really busy market.
Right. And so when you were doing everything early on in your business, talk to us a little bit about what your day-to-day was like and managing and juggling everything. Talk to us about that.
It was super overwhelming. There was almost daily, I was breaking down in tears because you don't realize before you get into it how much work it actually is. How much guests message you, I think, is the most surprising thing that I found when I first got into it, of like, this is a lot. Adjusting your personality to different guests and guest needs, things like that. I was just overwhelmed in general. I would wake up. I had staggered checkouts, so 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. So 2 of them were 10 a.m. checkouts, 2 of them were 11 to just give me that buffer, an extra hour to get them all done. So I could actually clean 4 in a day, but I was physically and emotionally exhausted by the end of the day. It was too much for me. Way too much.
Yeah. And so in that time where you were doing everything, what was the turning point? Like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back to say, hey, I'm done doing this to myself. I want to hire someone. What, do you remember that turning point for you?
I do. I was actually at Bespoke Lake Cottage, which is still online. And I was changing, there's 3 beds there. And I was in the bunkhouse changing 2 of the beds. And I just broke down and I called my partner crying. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this. I can't. I'm unable. And so then he said, I think it was actually his idea. He was like, I think it might be time that we outsource some of this, Kit, because this is not sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it funny how sometimes it takes someone else looking in to shine a light on what's right for us? And I'm always curious about that because did you have anything bubbling up internally where you're like, okay, I want to hire a cleaner and I just have to stick it out? Or was it really when he said that was the first time you'd ever considered hiring anyone?
I think it was the first time I ever considered hiring everyone. I feel like my initial thing was like, this is just what I have to do. This is like what I've chosen to do. And there's no one else. And it's kind of also like that release of control, because as I find with new clients, it's hard to release control until you feel comfortable with knowing that it's going to be okay and mistakes are going to happen and you can't prevent that. So I think it was more, I didn't want to give up control and less about my burnout and less about me and more about the standards that I had created in my mind for my guests and for my quote unquote business.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about when you made that hire. Did you find someone that you felt like, oh, this is a slam dunk. This is going to be an awesome relationship. I'm just going to hand everything over from a cleaning perspective and I feel confident? Or did you instead hand things over and then you worried or still had trouble with that release of control? With what did that look like?
I started with a Word document checklist and gave that to her. And from that evolved to modifying that checklist, or if there was things that like she forgot that I would never forget, I put it on the list. And then I was like, this list is getting out of control because like, talk about micromanage. No one wants to be micromanaged. I feel like I'm micromanaging her. And it wasn't until I got into property management software that it really lifted the micromanagement of it all, because there was checks in balance and, photographs submitted and things like that. So I didn't have to be breathing down her neck or go and check at the property. I asked for photos submitted and then I received them. And I know that the property is all set for the guests, but there were a lot of pain points and growing pains along the way, but she's still with me.
Awesome. I was going to say, for me, when we find good team members, they're like gold to our businesses. And we want to do everything we can to keep them in our businesses. And so I love to hear that she's still with you. And I'm curious, how have things changed for you from a bandwidth perspective since making that first hire? Have you made other hires since then? Have you only kept with that one team member? What does that look like for you today?
I have 6 employees and they're all women and they're all local. I'm a firm believer. I just love supporting women, and we're a tight-knit group and we really rely on each other and help each other. And it's honestly just, some of them have come up to me and said that it's their favorite place that they've ever worked, that they've never felt so comfortable, or, just especially with just a group of women, there's things that you can share with each other that you just don't feel comfortable with sharing in the presence of men. And I also allow them to bring their children to work. The hours for this job is from 10 or 11 a.m. until check-in at 3, and at 2 places 4. But that's a very short window, and it's hard to find daycare. I live in a very rural area. And so for many of these women, it's not worth paying for daycare in order to get a job. It would defeat the whole purpose. Mm-hmm. And they also want a chance to get out and earn some money, and we can do it all, but often not all at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of times it's nice to be able to bring your kid and set them up on the couch, bringing them a snack, and there's no harm in it. And that's a non-negotiable for any of my clients. So when I'm onboarding a new client or something like that, that's just straight up a non-negotiable for me, because we need to be able to work and bring our kids.
Wow. I think that is so incredible. And I'm curious what your feedback from your clients have been. As they learn that, are they like, wow, that's really amazing? Or, I don't know what I think about this. What's been the consensus?
Well, I was thinking the same thing when I started out saying that. And I haven't had one bad ounce of feedback. Everyone is just like, yeah, that's no problem. That's no issue. Yeah. Okay. Oh, good. Oh, that's nice. I haven't heard one negative peep about it. And for me, if there were to be a negative reaction, that's not someone I would take on as a client. That's not someone that I want as a client, because that's just, I really have strong core values. And that's one of them, is
Right. And I'm also curious, I want to talk about the logistics of bringing your kids to work because the concept of it, I think, is phenomenal. And I'm curious, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? So for your team members who are bringing their kiddos, what is the age range of these kiddos? Do you know off the top of your
Yes, I do. Yesterday, I believe he's 11.
Okay.
He came, and so he comes and gets the supplies with his mom. I gave him some fruit snacks and a sparkling water drink to take with him on his way. And a lot of times they just really like going. They're helping mom. He just wasn't feeling too good that day, so he wasn't horribly sick. And so he just tagged along, and sometimes they'll just sit on the couch and watch TV. Sometimes if it's a nice day outside, they'll just go sit on the deck with a drink. But all the kids are really well behaved. There's another one who's 5, and she comes quite often with her mom. And so we all know her, and she's part of the furniture, and it's just normal. It's just normal. And my son comes, my son works for me. And so after school and things like that, he works for a few hours. He mows all the lawns and does age appropriate work. But he just loves it.
That is, I absolutely love that you have built this culture where you're hiring women. I think that is so powerful, and allowing women to have work opportunities where they can bring their kids. That could be life-changing, not only for that woman, but for that child, right? To see their mom.
I agree. I agree. When I had my son, I was a solo parent, and it's very difficult to be able to work and provide and also spend time with your child and try again to do it all. And it's very difficult. And I love to travel. I've lived in 4 different countries. And when I was living in Thailand, I was teaching English, and you go to a restaurant there's a playpen set up, and the waitress's kids are right there. You go somewhere else, their kids are there. And I was like, why don't we do this back home? Why is this such a taboo thing? Everyone has kids. That's how we all arrived here. Mm-hmm. So I think that was kind of where I got the idea from, was living in Thailand and seeing that like these women can have jobs and their kids are right there. And if they need them, then they're right there. That's the best person for them. And it's nice to be part of the mix as a kid.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think that is so phenomenal. I have a question. With allowing the folks who work for you to bring their kiddos, do you set up any parameters or guardrails? Meaning, your kids can't have crayons on the couch, or are there any rules in place that?
Yeah, there's no drawing materials, and I personally take full responsibility if there was say any damage at a property or anything like that. We are such a tight-knit group, and there are people that have grandkids that they said, no, I can't bring my grandkids. Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. They won't behave well enough. And I say, okay, you're the judge of that.
Right.
And that's okay. But so it's not a written rule, but it's unspoken. It's an unspoken rule. And if there were to be any damage, I would have no problem replacing anything. But again, a short-term rental, there's not a lot to break. I mean,
we try to stage our properties with non-breakable items, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to go back to something that you said, which was, you are a supportive team, that you help each other. I'm curious about how you've built that culture. Has that happened organically for you? Were you taught that from somewhere? I'm just curious how that has come about for you, because I also think that's so unique and special, and quite candidly, something that a lot of people would love to recreate, but aren't quite sure how to.
Sure. Yeah, sure. It happened pretty organically. I think that any kind of culture starts at the top and works its way down. And I'm no different in the fact that if someone calls me, in tears because they got to a place and it was messier than they had anticipated, because 99% of the time they're a dream. And that 1%, as we all know, and she was overwhelmed and everything. And I said, I will be there in 10 minutes. And I go and meet her and help her. And there's just not even an option. Like, that's just how we operate. And so I feel like although I'm the boss or the owner or whatever, I'm no different than anyone that's a part of my team. And I have no problem getting my hands dirty, and I will 100% be there if somebody needs me. And I think that has kind of just trickled down.
Yeah.
And so when I need a favor, everyone, it seems like everyone is like, I'll do it. No problem. I'll do it. I did delete a scheduled clean by accident 3 days ago, and the guests arrived, and it's the very first time that's ever happened. The very first time in 3 years. And the guest arrived and called me and goes, I think there was someone here. And I was like, no, that can't be right. And so I'm doing all this, and I had deleted it. It was on there and I had deleted it. And so I put into our group chat and said, emergency, absolute emergency. And 3 girls were like, I'll go do it. So 2 of them went and did it. And then I brought over a bottle of wine to the guests the next day and got a 5-star review, and everything was all fine. But I was on my way an hour away to a different property. And so I was unable to go myself. And it's just wild. It's like, I need you and everyone's there, but I'm also the same way with them. So yeah. I think maybe that's how it happens.
No, I agree. I feel like, to your point, culture is built from the top. It starts with the person at the top. And when your team knows that you will bend over backwards to help them, they will do the same for you, right? And I think so often, especially in the corporate world, that is not prevalent, where you're expected to do as I say, not as I do, right?
Yeah.
And I think what you are doing when you are leaning in to help other people on your team, you are actually creating the best pad of security for your business, so that you are creating a loyal team. And the loyal team is, again, like gold, right?
It really is. And that's actually the hardest part about this business is staffing, and staffing cleaners in particular. It's not 8-hour shifts. We don't have, it is, a very rare person can fit the hours and the flexibility and the last minute bookings that come in of like, who can clean that one tomorrow? Yeah. So I try and do whatever I can. We also do events together. So I took my whole team ziplining. It's like this course that's in the area. It's something that I recommend to guests. And so I take the whole team to do that. I took the whole team tidal bore rafting, which is kind of like whitewater rafting, but in the river that flows into the ocean. It's a very maritime specific thing, but it was really fun. What else did we do? We went to the spa. We went to the brand new Nordic spa that's in the area. And then we also, about once a month, go out for breakfast. And it's not about work. It's about just, we work together as a team, but we work individually. And so it's important to me for everyone to see and talk to and have a relationship outside of the group chat with the people that, like, if you don't wipe that, you're just making more work for her. Cross. Look at her. You don't want to do that to her. No. So it really helps with team morale, even though we're all working individually. It still really is a group effort, and it is a team. So yeah. Those kind of things I do think help the culture as well.
Sure. And I'm curious, with your team activities, is this something that you think of like, ooh, it would be fun to go ziplining, it would be fun to go rafting? Or are you hearing them talk about it and then you decide what the next activity is going to be? How does that play out for you?
Well, the rafting and the ziplining was my idea because I thought it would build trust with each other. And then I'm most proud of Becky. And Becky is the woman who I hired from day one. And she was very scared to do both and said, Kit, I don't know if I can do it. And I was like, I think you can. And we're all there. So if you can't, then, your company's great too. So why don't you come and see if you can give it a go? And she ended up loving both of them. But then on our last one, I said, Becky, what would you like to do? And I let her pick. And she said, well, you were talking about maybe the spa. And I think that would be kind of fun. And so I said, you got it. So we all went to the spa. And all of them went into the cold plunge, including Becky.
Wow.
I know.
That's brave. I think that's
It
like
was.
ziplining almost.
I know. I think so.
What a cool thing, Kit. I absolutely love that. Now, I'm curious too, do you earmark a budget for this in your annual budget? Or is it just like, hey, we're going to do this once a quarter and I'll spend whatever? How does that play out for you logistically from a financial perspective?
It's not in any budget. I mean, I'm not taking everyone to Tokyo, but, just depending on how many people can come, because it shifts, right? It ebbs and flows. So I've had students work for me, and now then in the school year, they don't. And then the summertime, maybe they come back, or sometimes they don't, so depending on the amount of people and the age range of people, things like that, and stuff to do. We are in a rural area that has exploded with wineries and stuff to do. But we are pretty limited for group activities, especially ones that are on days that no one has a clean.
Right. And so you do look at scheduling those on days where there's no turnovers.
100%. Yeah. And then I have a backup in case there is, or someone who just doesn't want to go to the activity because they just don't want to. Then they'll say, I'll stay back. You guys go ahead. And I'll stay back. And if there's any cleans, then I'll pick them up, or I'll schedule it after a clean. So like after everyone's done the clean, then at 1:00 we're going, because there's only 3 cleans and we can all get it done. So things like that. But yeah, in and around $100 a person. If I can get it in that, then that's great. But no, there's no budget. And I like to do something in the fall and in the spring as like let's get ready to rock this season. Mm-hmm. And then of like, oh my God, we did it. We didn't. Yeah.
Well, good. I love that.
Hey girl, if you've ever thought about taking back control from Airbnb, you're not alone. And Logify is the tool to do it. Did you know that with Logify, you can create your own stunning direct booking website, manage everything from guest communication to payments all in one place, and finally say goodbye to the high OTA fees? Now, here's the best part. STR Sisterhood listeners, you get 20% off all yearly plans, plus free personalized onboarding that's worth over $3,000. Just use code STRSH20 and start building your business your way.
All right. I want to move to the fact that you purchased hosting contracts. Now, I absolutely love this concept because, in the world of, business, you think about business acquisition and, that's often reserved for the big businesses or the big property management companies.
Right.
I want to go back to what gave you the idea of just calling someone up who you saw might be busy and might need help. What gave you the idea to offer to purchase those contracts?
Well, as I got help with the cleaning, then I had a little bit more time to think straight instead of just lint rolling. And I had gone to this woman's meetup that this woman put on, and that's how I knew her. It was through a friend of a friend. So her and an acquaintance, like a friend of mine, they had this women's business network thing I went to go to a couple times. So I loosely knew her. We followed each other on social media, and I was looking and I was like, she's really busy. And it was, again, my partner was like, why don't you just see if she'd want to sell her contract. And I was like, well, I don't know. I mean, what do I do? Just say you want to sell your contracts? He's like, why not? What is she going to say? No? I was like, well, yeah, I guess. Okay. I'll message her and see if she wants to go for coffee. So I said, you want to go out for a coffee? She said, sure. So I went and I said, you look really busy. She's like, oh, yeah. And I said, I'm not looking to buy your whole business, because she had short-term rentals. She had interior design. She had just a bunch of different stuff that she was doing. I said, but if you were interested in getting those short-term rental contracts off your hands, I'd be interested. And she said, stop it. Me and my husband just had a conversation last week that, yeah, that would be a part of our business that we would want to offload. And I said, well, talk about timing. Okay, sure. Let me drop an offer and we'll see how it goes. So what we did is she had more than that. She had more than 13. It ended up being 13. So I made up in the contract that it would be a certain amount for the number of contracts that she could get them to sign on for me, so that she would talk to her clients and any ones that wanted to bridge over.
Okay.
But she didn't keep any. So it was either you transfer over to me or you no longer have any management. So that's what we did. So it was 13 that ended up signing over, and then plus my 4. No, it was 3 at this point. I had 3. And then after that, then we bought the 4th one. It gets confusing. I would have to look at
It's all good, girl.
chart.
I want to ask you about how you came up with your offer. How did you evaluate those contracts and the monetary value? What did that process look like?
Well, I asked her for what's it called? Like her, put me on the spot here, Stacey.
Like her,
What is it called? Like the
right roll.
the summary of her, like her business summary of like how much she makes, how much her accounting,
No.
her profit and loss, her P&L. I asked for her P&L to get an idea of what she was bringing in, what some of her costs were, things like that, and went from there and was like, okay, so if this is for this many properties, I really only looked at the summer months as well, because we are so seasonal here. A lot of rentals shut down in the winter because they're not winterized. And our season is
Right. Up
Yeah.
and down. Up and down.
Yeah. So yeah, I started from there. I divided it by the number of properties that she had, and over 3 of her years of operating, and started from there and just did it, just assessed it as fairly as I could.
And so I'm just going to make this up. Let's say you determined that each of her properties contributed, I'm totally making up numbers for ease, $10,000 of revenue in a season. From that $10,000 mark, did you say, okay, I'm going to give you 3 times that, like a 3x multiple for your offer price? How did you determine, once you identified how much revenue a property was generating, how did you identify your offer price from there? Was it a multiple of that revenue?
No, it was, I think I based it off of 2 years.
Okay.
And not like a multiplier of 10 or anything like that. Just because the short-term rental business can be so up and down. And just because someone signs a contract with me for, it was right, like a year, who knows what that was going to be moving forward. And so I based it off of 2 years.
Okay. Now, my next question is, and if you're like, Stacey, girl, I'm not going to tell you this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So I want to ask about the financing of these contracts. Did you just have cash in the bank to pay for them? Or
No. Oh my God. No. No, I had a line of credit.
Okay. You had a line.
So I used my line of credit in order to pay her. And then I actually just paid that off this month.
Go, girl.
Yeah. So after I think I bought that in, so 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I paid that off as of this month.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I bet it's really good to make that last payment.
Yeah, it really did. And it was like, instead of making like the rounded number, it was like, hey, what are the cents? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. So it was a different amount. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was like, holy crap. Okay. I can't believe I did it. I did it.
You did it. You
I
did
did
it.
it. Yeah. It was a lot. It was a lot. I started when I was unemployed, and it was like, I even based the move. Like, I didn't know anybody in this whole province. Everyone said that I was nuts, but I saw the COVID market going up for housing prices and saw my opportunity. And I got the peak price for my own house that I was going to lose otherwise. It was either sell or lose.
Right.
During COVID. So,
right.
Yeah.
So incredible. I'm curious now, fast forward to today, you're managing 35 plus properties.
Yeah.
What do you feel like makes the biggest difference for you in the day to day? When I always tell my students, hey, managing 5 properties is different than managing 1. Managing 10 is different than managing 5. Managing 20 is different than managing 10. Fast forward to 35 for you. What do you feel like has made the biggest difference to help you manage those in the most efficient way?
Systems and software.
Mm-hmm.
Hands down. Systems. And those systems are constantly changing. They're constantly evolving. It's constantly pivoting. It's like, okay, this works for right now. And then all of a sudden it's like, this is not working anymore. And I don't just come up with stuff. I have my whole team, like, I ask for feedback. What do you think is working? What do you think is not working? Does anyone have any advice? I am not the holy grail. Like, I'm only human, and no one is a genius in anything, in my opinion. So I'm constantly asking for feedback of like, is there a better way that I just can't see? And I often, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, let's try it for a week. Okay, we all on board? Yeah, let's try that for a week. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it's constantly changing and improving systems and pivoting when it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And then property management software is the holy grail.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you talk about systems. I love that you have kind of a trial and error approach, meaning, again, it's built into your culture that we're going to test some things and we're going to learn and we're going to pivot, and then we're going to test and we're going to learn and we're going to pivot. That is, something that I think is so incredibly important. And I always look at relentless continuous improvement. And I will tell you, sometimes that is a curse because you're always on to improve, right? And
it's exhausting, but it's worth it, in my opinion. But I'm neurotic.
No, me too. I'm neurotic like you.
I believe it.
Yeah.
No offense.
I take that as the compliment.
Good. I do too.
But, I think it's so important to test different things on the journey of continuous improvement, but give yourself grace when it doesn't work out and you have to pivot. That's okay. So many times people look at that as a failure. How do you look at it if something doesn't work?
I'm very frustrated every time. It never gets old. My frustration never gets old. But it's just like, okay, we tried and it didn't work. I don't really sit with it. It's just, I keep moving and it's like, that didn't work. What's the next step? That didn't work. What's the next step? How do we get it to work? And so I don't sit in any of that. It's just, it's pretty black and white.
Yeah.
Didn't work. How did we get it to work? Does anybody have any ideas? No, let's try this.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and it has to keep moving because guests are still coming and they're still checking out. They're still coming and the owners are still messaging you, and the world doesn't stop just because you failed at something so insignificant in the long run. And that's like, the saying, don't sweat the little things, is a saying for a reason. It's you can't get stuck on the semantics of it.
Mm-hmm.
yes, you can be annoyed and frustrated, but you just have to just one foot in front of the other and just, that sucks. Let's keep going.
Yeah,
That's it.
totally agree. Talk to me about software. What does your tech stack look like?
I got a lot of stuff going on. The biggest one's Logify, because it's interesting because I have been on like 12 onboardings for different softwares before I finally chose Logify. And Logify is under the radar for a lot of people, but they have this back-end system that you can connect it to your booking and automatically create and schedule a cleaning job. And then it stays with the booking. So if the booking gets canceled, it disappears. And so there's no going back and forth or anything like that. The cleaners have their own login. They're assigned their own tasks. There's task lists. You can submit photos and everything. And then there's also like the photos on there to go and, if you'd need to prove that something was not broken before the guest came. And so it had to have been in their thing. It's timestamp photos, things like that. That's the only thing that keeps me and my scheduling sane, because even with four, it was a lot of like, okay, someone canceled, and like re-looking and like looking through the calendar, being like, hey, who do I have scheduled? What do I do? So easy to miss. And when the software is hooked up with it, I don't have to second guess. It automatically creates a job that I've programmed it to do. It's a little front end heavy on the work of setting it all up. But once it's set up, and then the Logify person like helps you set it up. But that's been my biggest saving grace of all of it, because that's the hardest part. It's so funny because you think, oh, short-term rentals and that must be easy, which everyone knows, especially if you manage for other people. Most of them have tried doing it on their own and realized, I'm not capable of doing this. Didn't realize it was so much work. So, but when there's so much going on, the hardest part is scheduling. The hardest part is not missing a clean. The hardest part is finding the cleaners. They are the backbone of the short-term rental business. I don't care who says what. The cleaners are the backbone of the business. And if you don't have a good team or good systems in place with a good software, then it's just, you're going to be scrambling.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious how you have the back end set up. Are your cleaners assigned to specific properties, or do they just give you their availability and it automatically assigns them? Talk to me about that.
You can do it different ways. I have all of the jobs assigned to anybody and they can choose.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just review it and be like, this makes more sense. I'm going to switch yours and Tracy's shift here and do all that. But I don't schedule. They tell me their availability. Like, we're all adults, and it was just really important to me to create a work environment that, like, you don't have to ask me if you're going camping. You're an adult. You just tell me that you're going camping. I don't need to approve it. You just tell me. So I think that's really helpful, because I hated that when I was an employee of being like, can I go to Mexico? Like, it's so silly. It's so silly. So they just tell me their availability, and sometimes the month ahead, I'll do the whole schedule, but they can trade shifts. I don't care who does what, but if you tell me you're available on the day and you got invited to a concert, you just have to find a replacement.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I don't care who does it, because everyone on our team is awesome. So it doesn't matter who does it, just as long as it's covered. And that's how we do it. So, but you can do it so that, like, a cleaner is to this property, this property, this property only, and you can auto assign it. So actually, I do have Becky auto assigned to Sunken Escapes, which is the name of our glamping, our 10-unit glamping. It's actually right behind me. But she is the only cleaner for Sunken Escapes exclusively. And so all of the jobs are all scheduled to go to her. And if she has something that comes up, then I just change the ones on those dates for her. But
Okay.
so you can auto assign it, a certain property, to a specific cleaner.
Got it. Love it. Love it. So I'm curious, what is next for you? So it sounds like you're all, again, driven and passionate about continuous improvement. And like I am, you probably don't sit still very often. So I'm curious, what's next?
I think what's next for me, I think, is branching out. So all of my properties, save for one, is in the same area. So it's all within like I'd say 1 hour radius, and it's called The Valley, hence the name of my company, Stay in the Valley. But I do have multiple inquiries for to co-host in the city and in other areas of the province. So I think I might like to branch out, even though it's very scary and I don't know anyone in those areas. But I think that this year might be the year to start making those connections and maybe expanding out that way. I always have a few irons in the fire, and so whichever one catches first. But yeah, I think I'd like to expand, even though it terrifies me.
And so I'm just going to ask you a silly question, but when something terrifies you and you do it anyway, how do you get through it? What do you do to work through that fear?
Well, a lot of crying in the shower. I just have to tell myself that if I fail, it's okay. I can go and get clients in a new area, and what's the very worst that can happen?
Right.
Is I lose them as clients. Right. Okay. That's really the worst thing. Can I live with that? Yeah, of course I can. That's not a huge deal, right? It's a hit on my ego. But other than that, what is it? It's nothing. So yeah, I think I always look to what's the worst case scenario that can happen. And then I focus on that and go, that's not even a big deal. What am I so worried about? Why am I so worried about the big picture when the actual reality of it is so small?
Amen. Yeah. So good. Kit, you are so wise. So good. All right. I want to move to the lightning round. Okay. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I'm just going to ask you to answer with the very first thing that comes to mind.
Oh, I'm the worst at this.
Okay. First question is, where is your favorite place to vacation?
Thailand.
That came out really fast. How long have you spent in Thailand?
I didn't live there for very long. I backpacked there first, and that's how I fell in love with it. Then I taught English over there, not for long, like 4 or 5 months. And then during the pandemic, actually, I was almost stuck there in March of 2020 with my son. And I took him backpacking and on overnight sleeper trains and in hostels. And that was in 2020. So I've been there 3 times, total of, 6 months combined. Wow. And just the people are so nice, so friendly, very kind people.
And I've heard it is so beautiful.
It really is. Yeah, it is. It's exactly like you see in the movies. They're not putting filters or anything on it. It's crazy.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. What's one place you've never been that you want to visit?
I would love to go to Morocco.
Now, that's an interesting place. I was just in Portugal a couple weeks ago, and I really didn't remember, evidently, my 7th grade social studies, because I didn't realize how close Portugal and Morocco are.
Yeah. Very close. But yeah, I really want to go and just immerse myself in one of the souks and all the spices and colors and fabrics and culture. And I really love immersing myself in whatever country's culture that I go to. I think it's really important. I think that's just the way that I personally like to travel. There's nothing wrong with anyone's personal way to travel, but that's how I like to travel, is really getting in with locals. And so I just think that it would just be so interesting. There's so much history there. Like, there's just so much cool stuff, I think.
Yes. All right, I'm going to backtrack a minute, because you said you lived in 4 countries. So we've got Canada, we've got Thailand. What are the other 2?
The other 2 is England. I moved to England when I was 17, and I worked for the Canadian High Commission and was a bartender in a pub. I had to maybe change my birthday in order to do so. until I turned 18. But yeah, so I lived over there back in 2003. And then I lived in Australia for 2 years. So I bartended at a casino, and then I lived on an island and was a dishwasher. I had a working holiday visa there. So both England and Canada and Australia are part of the Commonwealth, and we have this agreement that you can go and work and travel. It's a work to travel program with our governments. And so I did that in both England and Australia.
Wow, who knew? So I diverted from the lightning round, but I felt like it was very important to know those sort of. All right, next question in the lightning round. What's one thing you know now that you wished you knew when you started out in the world of short-term rentals?
You can never please everybody.
Mm-hmm. That's a hard pill to swallow, because so many of us, we are in this business because we want to bring joy to people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so true.
There's some people you just can't please. It doesn't matter how pristinely clean it was. It will never be a 5-star. It doesn't matter how out of your way that you went for them. It would never be enough. And it took a long time to come to terms with realizing that most people who leave a negative review, it doesn't matter if something bad happened, good happened, whatever, they were going to leave that bad review because that's who they are as a person. Mm-hmm. And you could mess up 1,000,000 times and still get a 5-star review. And you can not mess up and get a 3-star review. And so it doesn't happen very often, but it did take a lot within myself to realize that, like, there's nothing that I could have done to please that person, and I'm okay with that, and not let it affect the rest of my day.
Amen. Amen to that. All right, next question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
To go for it. Just do it. When I was 17 and I was in England, I called my mom crying and said, I want to come home. Because, like, let's be honest, 17 is really young to move countries by yourself. Like, okay. So I called her crying, and she said, you're going to have a shower, put on a nice outfit, go give out resumes, and you're going to stay there for 2 weeks. And if at the end of 2 weeks, you still want to come home, then at least you can say that you were there for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Do it. Try it anyways. And then you can proceed later. But I ended up staying. I got a job that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great advice from your mama.
Yeah.
Love it. And last question, what's one thing and or person that you're grateful for today?
I'm very grateful for my partner because he really is the greatest encouragement that I have. Him and my son, I wouldn't be able to do any of this without them. They are helping me run irons to properties. They are keeping, they just help with everything, all the little stuff that is so insignificant in the moment and so large in the overall big picture. And the support that both my partner and my son give is just priceless.
So good. The people in our lives truly matter. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I don't tell them that enough. Right?
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard and you don't even realize that they're doing all these little things in the background. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, geez, okay. Well, I shouldn't have maybe been a bit rude today. So it's true. It's true. And surround yourself with people that do encourage you and do help you and do, no one wants help basking in, oh, the guest is going to leave. Yeah. If they are, they are. They're not, they're not. Move on. Okay. Yeah. Great. Yeah. It's just like who we are as people. We also, as a group, just love hosting people, love providing experiences. We just love all of it. We're just like people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So good. Kit, if someone wants to learn more about you or the support that you could provide as a host, what's the best place for them to find you online?
Best place is stayinthevalley.com, just exactly how it's spelled. And that's the same as my Instagram handle, although I wish I could post more on there, but that is another full-time position that I don't always have time for. But I do post on there as much as I can, and it is a good avenue to get a hold of me. But the best place would be stayinthevalley.com, and you can book an appointment. You can see what my services are, and you can also book a stay.
I love it. Kit, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. This has been awesome.
All right, my friend, if you are ready to grow your short-term rental business with confidence and clarity, I want to invite you to come join us inside the STR Sisterhood online community. You'll get access to powerful weekly trainings, expert insights, and strategies designed to help you attract more bookings, streamline your operations, and increase your profits. Whether you're just getting started or scaling up, you do not have to figure this all out alone. I want to see you inside the sisterhood, and you can take out your free account or you can upgrade to premium and join us over at strsisterhood.com. I'll see you there.